He may need this, God. Please share the broadcast. We'll play another song. Wait for everyone to get here and get started. Shalom, everyone. right, one more song, guys. Psalm 84. Another favorite. Thank you, Father. Also have to correct myself on something I said. Stand by for that. that guitar. Hallelujah. Thank you, Father. Shalom and welcome. Trying to multitask here. Hold on. Shalom and welcome to the broadcast, everyone. Welcome. Just as we were coming on, I find out that there was an earthquake in Japan 6 hours ago. Doesn't look like it came of anything, like no tsunami, and it was in generally the same place Fukushima happened. So that's kind of concerning. Anybody find any information on that? Let me know. I just saw one article as I was literally, when the music's playing, I'm finding out about this. So I haven't seen anything on it. Welcome, everyone. Let's see who we have over at YouTube. You guys hear the cow? Shalom, Joshua and Britt and Keeps Digging 7. Higher place. What moves you now? Taste my finger. The names here. Yeah. Whiteheart. Rafael Rivera. Can't be good. Doc Michael. Yes, earthquake near Fukushima. That's what I was told. Jonathan Hardy.
Well, they downgraded it from 9.1.
9.1 originally. Oh my gosh, guys. That's a big one. It's a 7.1. My first earthquake was a 7. Was it 7.6, Darla? We went through? It was a 7.6. My first earthquake ever. Kind of freaked me out. One was a 7 and one was a 6. Yeah. Here in Hawaii. The cows are calling me, guys. Shalom, Michael Babson. Or is that the wife? I know you emailed me, but it was the wife. Shalom, Braided Prepper and Rude Darty. And welcome, students. We've got 8 students with me. Welcome, you guys. So I know I told YouTube last broadcast that we would be on Friday. However, obviously that changed. I had to not go on. So that was just a class we did. So YouTube didn't get to see that. So here we are Saturday, and I decided, since it is the head of the month, and I don't mean the day, Rosh Chodesh, but we're in that area. We just come through Rosh Chodesh, which is the head of the month, and it's the 12th month, okay? So you guys, I've been talking about going through the whole year with you all with the calendar. And so it occurred to me that maybe we should start this in the 12th month and go into the first month together, already kind of primed up with some information already behind us. Instead of me just coming on at a beeb and say, hey guys, it's a beeb. And you're like, what's going on? So that's kind of why we're gonna get a running start for this. I've been getting a lot of messages, been seeing a lot of talk on social media about the calendar. And there have been people trying to debunk this one and prove that one, and and it turns out to be another one of those things where the remnant wants to divide, and we shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be dividing over things like that. It's not a salvation issue, and so what causes that is ego, first of all, right? Ego. If you're totally sold out on something, maybe it was tradition, it's what you know, or whatever, and then all of a sudden there's something that's contradictory to that, and it's an opposition to it. It's the very same thing. It can cause divisions, especially when people are very dogmatic and unwavering, and no flexibility. We can't get like that and expect to navigate through the scriptures and then get to the real truth here. Hardest thing I ever had to let go was the pre-trib rapture. And it took me forever to reconcile that with the codes because I boxed myself in. I was looking at it in the wrong way. I was looking at it from the perspective that I was going to prove that the pre-trib rapture was real. It was a real thing. And it didn't work out that way. I couldn't prove it. I could show there was a rapture, but the codes was not indicating that it was pre-trib. And I could, code searchers, you guys are going to see this. You cannot force a code to say what you want it to say. It's not going to happen. It's either there or it's not there, right? And so you got to go where the chips fall, right? It's not about your opinion. And sometimes that gets really thrown out the door first day when the word starts to become reconciled. Okay, we have to let go of things. Don't get yourself boxed in and think, oh, this is the way, and how do I prove that? Or how do I debunk the other guy? That's another approach that some people do instead of, really rightly dividing the word and, debating with one another, or even just, having a Bible study. We got to let go of some things. First of all, it's got to be the ego, right? Always, I'm right. And that includes me, right? I know that it appears that I come across sometimes in a way that I don't try to, but I don't know everything. And sometimes I have to make adjustments and correct myself. For instance, in the last several times that I've been talking about, and I think the last 3 times that I've been talking about Planet X and its passage and Yeshua on the cross for 6 hours, wrong. I don't know why I was saying that. It was 3 hours. So I need to correct myself on that. That's a good example right there, right? I don't like giving false or wrong information. I want to be correct in what I'm telling you, accurate. That's very important to me. And so I was sitting here going through some information and some data and things I've been studying, looking at the Bureau and things like that. And the Holy Spirit said, you've been saying 6 hours the last couple of times. It's actually 3. And I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, I have been saying 6 hours. And I started panicking, going, oh, this is bad. This is bad because it's already been a couple of days. Okay, so now I'm making that right. I have a little note I wrote myself, so I did not forget. I wanted to get that out of the way before we get into what we're getting into. All right? I don't know why I was saying that. It just came out that way. I don't know why I thought 6 hours, but it is 3 hours, which is still, that should send up red flags for people. Because, an eclipse is only 7 minutes. But this went on, and there was an earthquake. There were other factors there that should say, hey, what's going on here? I need to get a drink. When I get on here and start talking, I get dry mouth. And to boot, I don't eat breakfast, but I take vitamins, and sometimes that makes my stomach feel like, ugh. And so I'm fighting that as well. Okay. I did get me a banana to snack on, but I only eat once a day. So I'm kind of trying to struggle through that. Anyway, now I stand corrected on the passage of Planet X on the day of the crucifixion. It was a 3-hour eclipse. All right, moving right along. Hey, can we get one of the boys to check on okay. All right. Okay, so I want to read to you Leviticus 23 at what we have concerning the feast. And this is where you'll find them. These are Yahuwah's feasts. This is not the feast of the Jews. This is not a Jewish thing. I saw someone in the chat going, hey, you guys think you're Jews? Or something like that. This is not a Jewish thing. That's one tribe, by the way. This is Yahuwah's feast. We are Hebrews from the house of Israel. And we have a desire to know the Father in this way. So, Leviticus 23, verse 1. And Yahuwah spoke unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast of Yahuwah, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations Even these are my feasts. Thank you. Carla's saying go to the ISR. See, little things like that. I'm not as sharp as I normally am because I'm fighting this, not eating anything before I come on. 6 days work is done, but the 7th day is a Sabbath rest, a set apart gathering. You do no work. It is a Sabbath before Yahuwah in all your dwellings. Let's pause right there for just a moment because we're going to look at what's being said. Okay. When we start talking about the calendar, you're going to have to forget the Gregorian. There is no Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Forget that. Okay. There is no February, March, April, May. Okay. Forget all of that. You have to not try to layer it over and superimpose one over moment, for this, practical application here. Set it aside. Don't think about it. Okay. And don't box yourself into trying to fit the Gregorian on what I'm showing you because you're going to confuse yourself. Okay. I want to say that first. We are talking about 6 work days. Okay. 6 work days. It doesn't say, anything specific about, what those days are. It just says 6 work days of work is done. And then the 7th day you shall rest. Okay. And the reason I'm pointing this out is when we start looking at the Hebrew calendar, because at Rosh Chodesh, something's happening here. We're going to get our day 1 of the month at that time. I call it a pause period where we're looking for the sliver to declare that now is the time, and it's a Moedim. It's not something that's just done in the 7th month at Yom Teruah. It's done every month to declare the Rosh Chodesh, the head of the month. And it goes from a dark, no moon to a sliver. This is like a life and death cycle every month. Okay, think about it that way. The moon declares the Moedim. I'm going to show you that encoded in Isaiah at a very small skip in just a few moments. But the moon declares the Moedim. So if you're starting if you're saying the full moon is the new moon, because there's a lot of messianics who are trying it that way. Let me ask you this. So for your Rosh Chodesh, we're talking about a full moon phase, right, to declare. So the 3 days leading up to and the 3 days after, what you'll notice, it's very hard to distinguish which day is the full moon. And the only way that you all who are keeping it, is you're using technology to do so. You just go and see when the full moon is by technology. But let's say you didn't have technology. Let's say we were in ancient times. How would you distinguish Rosh Chodesh in a very confusing few days of the moon cycle? Because you cannot distinguish 1%, 2%. It's impossible. You cannot do it with your naked eye. So unless you're kind of ticking things off every month and keeping up with it, you're going to lose the day of the new moon. Okay? Margin of error with anything is 3%. So, you're going to potentially get yourself off because you cannot distinguish that day. And the problem with this is a King James translation of cassette. I think it's wrongly translated there. Many Hebrew words can have a positive and a negative meaning, literally, like night and day. Okay. In this case, we're talking about, concealed. That's what that word means, concealed. The logic here for the new moon is the full moon, people, is it's concealed in light. The moon is concealed in light. Really? Okay. So determining the new month at the full moon, you're guaranteed margin of error. Guaranteed. But if you start the new moon when there's no moon, it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear to everybody, right? And you see that 1% sliver, like we just saw this Rosh Kodesh. We just saw it. Let me show it to you, and we'll come back to the scripture. Darla was the 5th person in the world to cite the moon and post it on this website. And I want you to see what the moon looks like at this time, because when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's not a 2% moon. They're calling for a 2% moon. That is not a 2% moon. As you can, we're at 5% now. Okay. At the time, it was a 1% moon. And this site actually called it a 1%. The other ones were calling it 2%. It's very faint, but it is possible, darling. When we were up on Mauna Kea, that was a 1% moon that we saw. Okay, let's blow that up a little bit. Will it let me blow it up? Yeah, it will. You look at that. You can even see where it's really bright. There is where the direction of the sun is, because that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the reflection of the of that side. Here's a really interesting side note for Abib. You see what is this? We're in the 12th month, and you see the position it is. It's almost fully sitting like a bowl. You know what I mean? Like perfect symmetry. At Abib time, or the equinox, spring equinox, the new moon at spring equinox, it will look like a bowl in the sky. It's the only month of the year that it does that, folks, because every other month it's going to be turned. That's another little observation that can help you determine Abib, or the new year. It's really important to get Passover right. Okay. You have to have a full moon on Passover. The new year doesn't start at the full moon. It starts at the head of the month, and then you count in 14 days and you got Passover. Do you see what's happening here, folks? If you start the new year or the new month at the full moon, which is, day 14 of the count, it's not going to be right. You're going to have a another phase of the moon. It's incorrect. And by the way, those people don't even consider the moon at all. So that's an issue. The moon is determining the Moedim, and every Rosh Chodesh. It's a cycle. It's a life and death cycle. It's like darkness. There was darkness upon the face, and then there was light, and that light grew, and it became full, and then it began to fade in its life until it renewed again. Okay, it's a life and death cycle. It's a life and death cycle of the moon. Okay, so I just wanted to cover all of that, because I know some people get hung up at this new moon is full moon stuff. So it cannot be. Look, the new moon was 1% right there. See, very faint, very faint. And so it's really easy to get Rosh Chodesh if you're starting the month at the concealed moon, means no moon, right? And I'm starting to think King Jimmy did a lot of damage intentionally, because how can the moon be concealed in light? Concealed means you don't see it.
It is concealed all day. New moon day, it's concealed.
It is in the sky, but
it's right out the sun, right?
Right. Yeah. But in this case, concealed it's a conjunction. You don't see it. Yeah. That's what it is. It's dark, and then there was light. Okay. All right. So, renewedmoon.com. This is the thing. I want you guys to start paying attention to the moon every night. Go out and look if you can. If there's clouds and stuff, obviously you can't do that, but you can get on right here, because we have technology. We're going to take advantage of that. You can get on and follow and track the moon cycle. Okay. And so this next year, we're going to do that together.
And why would we look for the moon?
Because the moon determines the Moedim.
Genesis 1:14-16. He gave us the moon and the sun for signs.
Very good. Right.
Appointed times, days, and years.
Did you guys hear that? Say that again louder, Darla. The moon was given to us. Why? I mean, the sun, moon, and stars, right? Why?
For signs, appointed times, which is translated seasons in the King James, days and years.
That's exactly right.
So he gave us two great lights, not one. We were all raised to pay attention to one and disregard the other.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. We're going to talk about those days. I see the chat is really bumping right now. Let's not divide over it. Let's not fight over anything, okay? I'm trying to break this down as rudimentary and as simplified as I can get. And we're going to take baby steps at first, okay? So that's why this is called the introduction to the calendar. I'm not just going to drop it all on you at one time. We're going to walk this out together. The head of the month, Rosh Chodesh, is a Hebrew term. It means beginning of the month is this meaning. For the first day of every month in the Hebrew calendar is marked by the birth of a new moon. It is dark and then it's light. Right? By the way, this whole calendar is an agricultural calendar as well. We're going from harvest to harvest. You guys know what Abib is about? Boy, I should have been a little more prepared. It's about harvesting grain. I'm trying to get you some images that I can pull up. Ah, wrong. That's not.
He's green and early.
Yeah. It's green and early. That's exactly right. It means, oh, wow, that's a cool picture. I've been talking about this. I wanted you to see this. I'm a visual person. All right. Stalls in the field. This is what they're stacked like this, standing up. They're not laid down on the ground. Okay. So Abib is ripening. So the field is completely green when this comes about. More than this. This is, what Abib looks like. It's ripening. It's starting to turn ripe. And so it's a timing thing. You got to get this timing down as if you're a farmer, because you could potentially lose your whole crop. It could ruin you in ancient times. And now we've got, obviously combines and things, but this is how it was done right here by hand. All by hand. And so it would be a thing, a whole community thing. People would come, in your community and help on harvest time. There'd be a big lunch. Everybody'd be fed, right? All the women got lunch ready and stuff. All the men out there, and I misspoke. There's some women right there doing the harvest. But I'm saying, this is what I see in my mind in old times. And just 100 years ago, they didn't have combines. This is what they were doing. So we've lost that. We've become modernized, and these things are foreign to us. And we don't understand what is that about? Barley. Abib. What are these things? Okay, so Leviticus 23. If we're to understand what is going on in Leviticus 23, then we have to take, some time to go and research those things that are foreign to us, like agricultural terms and harvest times and things like that. So 6 days of work is done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath rest, and then you start that over, right? It's day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, Sabbath. Day 1, day 2, day 3, and it's like that all month. It's a count that you do. We don't say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. All right, it's day 1, because that's irrelevant. Your day 1 is going to be different every month, or day 2 or day 3. It's going to be different than Monday or Tuesday. It's going to jump all over well, not all over the place. It's going to vary from month to month. It'll be, like this month is going to Thursdays. Right? Last month it was, where were we at last month, Darla? It was third, what was it? Wednesday?
We left Thursday.
We're going to Friday now.
Yeah.
I had it backwards. That's right. And see, that's why I don't even use the word Thursdays and Fridays and stuff. I completely cut that off. And it's day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. And so this month it turned out, you know, it was like a Friday, Thursday. Now we're going to Friday for this new Rosh Chodesh. So it fluctuates. The moon determines the Moedim. It's now I hear people saying right now, oh, well, that's really that's convenient for those of us that's got to work. Yeah, I get it. It is. You know, Babylon is not going to agree with it. And it's going to be very difficult to observe this if you're still in Babylon. On that hamster wheel, right? We were once an agricultural people, and then we moved to a coinage and money people. Agriculture was no longer even considered anymore as part of trade. Now it's a commodity. It's traded, but it's not like it was. It was everything. This is how people survive. Together, by the way. Six days work is done. And on the 7th day is a rest. It's a set apart gathering. You'll do no work. It is a Sabbath unto Yahuwah in all your dwellings. These are the appointed times of Yahuwah, set apart gatherings which you are to proclaim in their appointed times, Moedim. So that means we have to keep up with it. Okay, just go on Google and say, when's the full moon? We're to know every day what day it is by looking at the heavens. That's why he created it. It's a calendar. And it's also for communication. He gives us signs in the heavens. That's biblical, folks. All right, so in the first month, on the 14th day of the month, between the evenings is the Passover unto Yahuwah. And on the 15th day of the month is the festival of unleavened bread. You're going to have them bam, bam, bam. These particular feasts right together. It's the same thing on the other side at the other set of feasts. It's pretty much right there together. 15th day of this month is a festival of unleavened bread unto Yahuwah. 7 days you are to eat unleavened bread. All right, so that goes on for 7 days. The festival is 1 day, but you eat the unleavened bread for 7 days. Right? On the first day, you have a set apart gathering. You do no servile work. Now, this is really important. This is specifying something. Servile work and preparation work are two different things. So you can do things around your home. You can prepare for Passover. Servile work means you go to work and get a paid. It's your service. You're working for someone. All right? So you can prepare. You shall bring an offering made by fire, meaning you're gonna cook something on the grill. All right, for 7 days. So every night you'll be doing this. On the 7th day is a set apart gathering. You shall do no servile work. And usually it's specified. It'll say absolutely no work. In this case, it's no servile work. And Yahuwah spoke unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, and when you come into your land which I give you, ye shall reap its harvest. Right? So this is about harvest times. In the very first one, I want to set this because this is really like a chicken before the egg kind of thing, egg before chicken. Because someone's going to say, well, you know, what about the first one? How was there a harvest? Here's my opinion on that. They just come out of Egypt with their harvest. There was no harvest in the desert where they went. They brought it with them. They brought everything with them in the first one. But when this is established as you shall do this in all of your, generations, It was established. Now they're planting and going through that cycle. Do you understand what I'm saying? In their own land, where he's got them now. Does that make sense? Because some people are going to go, well, where did they get the grain to harvest? Because this is specifically about harvest, both spring and summer. In the spring, it'll be barley, which is a type of wheat. They're both wheat, by the way. Barley is a type of wheat. It grows rather quickly, within 90 days. But summer wheat, 102 days. It's going to take longer, right? So these feasts, all of them, are going to be about harvest. The former and the latter, former rain, latter rain. There's going to be two different kinds of harvest times. And in those harvest times, you'll be harvesting, grapes, and there's a harvest for olives and things like that. But specifically for this, what we're talking about is grain, okay? Barley, which is a winter wheat. It grows in the winter time and it's harvested in the spring. And summer wheat, which is a more, it grows longer, and it's just different. Anyway, so when it's harvest time, we got to give thanks for it, right? We give first fruits, and there's a wave offering that's done both times. So the spring and the summer, the different seasons of Yahuwah's set apart times, is going to be about harvest, and we're giving thanks for it. Okay. So in this case, he says, speak unto the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, when you come into your land, which I give you, and shall reap its harvest, right? And you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest. And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahuwah for your acceptance. On the morrow after the Sabbath, priest waves it. And on that day, when you wave the sheaf, you shall prepare a male lamb, a year old, a perfect one, as a burnt offering unto Yahuwah. So you're going to barbecue a lamb, right? And it's a grain offering. Now, let me just stop right there, because some people are going like, whoa, Jonathan, so what are you telling me? We got to sacrifice a lamb? Well, if you want to be, actually biblically accurate, that's what it says. But here's the thing. We're not in the land yet. So everything we're doing right now is all practice. You get it? You understand that? First of all, Passover has already been fulfilled. Yeshua fulfilled that at the cross. So before that, every Passover, they sacrificed a lamb. Yeshua fulfilled that, and he became our sacrificed lamb on the cross. Therefore, it is fulfilled. And in my interpretation, there's no longer a requirement, I believe, that we have to do this thing. And now it's a memorial about Yeshua, because at the quote Last Supper, what did he say? Every time you do this, meaning every year, remember me. So no, it's no longer about covering them in the Passover. Now it's about atonement, because in the first Exodus, they were covered. You understand? I don't want to confuse anyone. Yeshua comes on the cross. He fulfills Passover. Now it's about atonement. Does that make sense? He's fulfilled it. Now we are remembering what he has done for us every time we keep Passover. You guys see what I'm saying here? So we're not keeping it like the Jews. This is not a Jewish thing. This is about Yeshua. You follow? So when we keep the Passover, in my opinion, you don't need a Jewish Haggadah. How do you say that? Haggadah. Haggadah. You don't need that. That's the Jewish way. That's what they do. There's nowhere in the Torah where it says you've set out a cup and a chair for Elijah. That's a man-made tradition, folks. Okay, so what are we doing? We are remembering the sacrifice Yeshua did for us. He gave his life. He was the lamb that laid down his life, right? So it's a memorial to him now. It's no longer a memorial of what Yahuwah did for them in Egypt. Am I clear here? I'm not even seeing the chat at YouTube, so let me fix that, because I don't know if anybody's following or if I'm confusing people or what. Help me out, students. You guys follow? Or am I confusing you? Every one of you are muted. I can't hear you if you're talking. All right. So anyway, what I don't kill a lamb. I know that some do, Zach Bauer and all. Some people do that, and I'm not saying that's we shouldn't do that. I mean, that is biblical. I mean, that's what it says to do. I just go and get lamb, kosher lamb, that's already been prepared. Not cooked, but it's already been slaughtered, and I do a barbecue on the grill, and we do everything else. And so I don't kill any animals, and I wouldn't have butchered a calf. What was that, dog? Maybe a month ago or so, had not Yahuwah made us do that. He forced that on us. Otherwise, I'd have let that calf grow into an old man. Even though he was designated to be a beef cow, I could have never brought myself to do that. All right. And so what does Yahuwah do? He forced it on us. He caused the situation where I had to either lose my calf or salvage the situation. And so it was a learning experience for my family. And one thing I learned, even so, I couldn't do it. I can't stand the sight of blood and things like that. How ironic, right? I was in the Marine Corps. Especially suffering animals, things like this, it kills me. And so my sons did it. They butchered that little calf, right? And it was necessary, because that's how we survived. And that's how they survived in ancient times. And so on Passover, when Yeshua was on the scene there, and there was 250,000 lambs sacrificed in that one time. All that wasn't wasted, folks. They didn't just sacrifice these little lambs and throw them away. It was prepared as a meal for a whole family. A family who had spent time with this little lamb and had grown to love it, right? And so it was a learning lesson for them up until Yeshua about what Yahuwah did for them in Egypt, coming out of Egypt. And it was a prophetic, it was prophetic in the sense that all of the feast speak unto Yeshua. They're all about him. And so when he's on the scene and he is fulfilling these first ones, right, at this particular time, when the time was right, often he'd said, it's not yet my time. Now the time is right. And literally while he's on the cross, the priest is doing the sacrifice at the same time. He was the atonement lamb, fulfilling that feast. And that is why he said, every time you do this, think about me, remember me, and what this is all about. He said, this is my body, and this is my blood, and I'm giving it for you. Okay. He wasn't establishing the Eucharist or the communion supper, as the Christians will like to call it. That is a Catholic construct. And if you don't believe that, you're deceiving yourself. Yeshua was teaching his disciples what the meaning of the feast was. And if we change that and turn it into a ritual, we lose that. We lose it. And so in this season that we're in now, this is what it's all about, is reconnecting to the Most High through his feast, through his name, through his Shabbat. I want to know him and not someone else's version of him and what they determined, right? He said, these are my feasts. These are my appointed times, and you shall do them in all your generations. And so that's why we do it. We're not trying to get our, way into heaven, because Christians will say that, remnant, to you. You're trying to bring yourself under the law. You're trying to earn your way into heaven by works and things like that. It's not what it's about. we do it because we love him first and we want to be obedient. I like the way Brother Gary says, it's not bondage when you want to. It's a joy and it's a blessing, and it is a blessing. And you'll see that. So, continuing on, we get to the sheave offering where he waves, right? And the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest waves it. And on the day you wave the sheaf, you shall prepare the lamb, a perfect one, your burnt offering. You're gonna eat this lamb, or you're gonna eat a Costco version of rack of lamb, whatever you want to do. But it is a joyous time. It is a time of feast. It's a time of reflection at what Yeshua did for us. And that's why I say joyous, because we couldn't have saved ourselves. He had to come and give his life for us. And so there's lessons in these feasts. And so if we change that, we just sweep that under the rug and start keeping pagan feasts, we just threw away our heritage and what he had intended for us, because there are lessons there. That's why Satan took it from you guys. Lessons there, and it also is a connection to the Father. This is his, right? He's teaching us something here. Now, this is about a grain offering. In verse 13, he said, and it's a grain offering, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil. Sounds like he's making biscuits or something, right? An offering made by fire unto Yahuwah, a sweet fragrance, and its drink offering of 1/4 of a hin of wine, which is a quarter. A hin is 1 gallon, so we're talking about a quart of wine, right? And again, in ancient times, we're giving thanks to the Father for what he's given us in our harvest, right? He's given us the rain at its proper time, right? He's given us the knowledge of cultivation and of grafting and of, growing things. And so we're giving thanks for success, for coming through the season and having a harvest. Everything works out right. It doesn't if you don't pay attention. You can lose your whole harvest. But when everything works out right, you're giving thanks. Thank you, Father. Thank you. Right? It's not a burden. And you do not eat bread or roasted grain or fresh grain until the same day that you have brought an offering unto your Elohim, a law forever, which is forever, throughout your generations in all your dwellings. And from the morrow after the Sabbath, and from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, you shall count for yourself 7 completed Sabbaths. And I want to stop right here because daughter didn't want me to go too far into this, because we're talking about Rosh Chodesh. When we get to Abib and we go through this count, we'll start talking about this, because this right here is a very troublesome place for many who have tried to interpret this. And I think it's probably because of the English, because it looks like he's saying something twice, like he is reiterating something when he's saying this. And from the morrow after the Sabbath, and the day that you brought the sheaf off wave offering, you shall count for yourself 7 Sabbaths complete. Until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath, you count 50 days, and you shall bring a new grain offering unto you. This is because, you know why? Because this is a different harvest. We just went from harvest to harvest. Or excuse me, yeah, harvest time to harvest time. We went from Abib to the summer harvest. That's what counting the Omer is getting to that point. Once the wheat has been planted, there are a number of days it needs to grow until harvest time. Okay, you cannot grow summer wheat. You can't even grow barley in 50 days, which is 80 something, 90 something days. Summer wheat, 102 days. And so at 50, you basically got a field of green. You can't harvest. It's not even a bean. Or ripening, right? I don't mean the season. I mean ripening, the Hebrew word for ripening. For this particular harvest, at 50 days, you're going to have green. And when we get to that point, I'm going to point this out, okay, in the count that we do. I'm going to take you to some places, like I'll follow what's going on in Colorado, and pretty much it's going to be the same all around the world, the same region. They're doing the same thing at the same time of the year. I was able to see a bead 2 years ago here in Hawaii with barley coming up in my yard. At the same time, they were seeing a bead in Israel. And it's amazing to me. It's all the Father's plan. It's all his orchestrating, right? So at this point, we're going to really kind of double down, because in the case of those who are trying to reconcile the calendar, not knowing this, when they just count 50 and then continue the rest of the year, you know what happens at the end? They're all off, and it's all messed up. And nobody figured out why that is when that happens. This is why. It's because we don't count it right. All right. So again, when we get to that point, I'm going to point that out, and we'll see it together. I'm going to go to the websites, and so we can see what the grain is looking like at that time. And you can see for yourself. You're not going to be able to harvest for first fruits. You don't harvest, green grain for first fruits to give to the Father, right? It's immature. So we will observe. Now imagine, I'm trying to explain this to people who have inherited the lies, and it had been severed from the most, and all of the agricultural idioms and parallels in the Bible. And so it's all foreign to them. So this is a kind of a difficult thing to get across to people who are clinging still to Gregorian or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all that kind of stuff, and they're trying to reconcile this whole thing. So in this whole process, guys, I want you to think like Hebrews. We'll kind of do this where there's hypothetically, not hypothetically, we'll use our imaginations that we don't have technology, even though we are going to be using the technology. We're not going to use it to our advantage to determine these things. We're going to do it with the moon. Okay, does that make sense? So no cheating, right? So the next Rosh Chodesh that comes around, like a day or two before, I'm going to kind of mention it to everyone and say, okay, now's the time. Here's what we're looking at. All the while, you should be going outside looking for the moon and observing. And for that fact, not just the moon, all the stars, the planets, and what's going on, because not only are we trying to reconcile the first month and first day of the year, we also want to pay attention to any messages, right? Anything he's telling us. Like what's going on right now, what's above us right now in the sky with the sun blazing on us right now. Do you even know what's happening? You guys paying attention? There's been an alignment, like 5 or 6 planets, all in a line. In the morning, in the east, in the past week or so, you should have been able to see a really cool conjunction coming up right before the sun. Bunch of little stars all together, or in a line. I didn't get to see it myself, but I knew it was happening. What is Yahuwah telling us? Coincidentally, we are, I got a sign from Yahuwah at the blood moon, at the eclipse that happened in the southern hemisphere, and it was in Taurus, which is the ox, which represents Ephraim, first of all. So ox is a symbol that we're paying attention to right now. You guys know what the Chinese New Year is now, which is at this time? It's the ox. I thought that was really interesting. That's 2 confirmations of something with just that one symbol I've gotten. Everything okay in the chat over there? I think we got shenanigans going on. Okay, all right. We got questions? Yeah. All right. So I want to another resource that I want to give to you guys. So the first one will be renewedmoon.com, and the other one is going to be Creation Calendar, which is Troy Miller's research. Troy specializes in the calendar. You know, if you have a heart condition, you want to go see a specialist, right? You wouldn't go see a podiatrist for your heart condition. You'd go see a heart doctor, right? And so that's kind of the same idea. When you want to learn about the calendar, go to see someone that knows about the calendar or specializes in that. And that's what he does. He's very good at what he does. He's spent many hundreds of hours doing what he does and putting all that information together. Yahuwah has called him out of the Seventh-day Adventist, and he's got a lot of information over at his site, guys. So I want to encourage you, if you want to know about this, go spend some time at Troy's site. Let me show you here. This is his site, creationcalendar.com. I'll put a link to this in the description after the broadcast. But this is it. Excuse me. He is not an Adventist anymore, and this is not a Seventh-day Adventist site. Some people think that because of his stance, but and because he keeps the name. He is no longer. So I would encourage you to go over there and just kind of devour this. Really good stuff here. I did pull one of the PDFs to talk to you about today. I'm going to read it to you, which is, there are 3 distinct days in Scripture. Okay, not just work days and Sabbaths. All right, so I want you to see this. Let's go read that together. Oops, this one. 3 distinct days. So here's what it says. Torah observers very astutely and correctly say that when the words commandments, statutes, and judgments appear in the same passage of Scripture, they cannot be referring to the same thing, right? We're talking about 3 different things when it's being specified, right? These are 3 separate and divisions in Yahuwah's codified law. There are not just 2, moral and ceremonial, as commonly thought. The penmen of these passages were not saying 10 commandments, 10 commandments, 10 commandments. The 2 divisions of law, moral and ceremonial, are invented to stem the tide of Reformation and the work of the Catholic scholar Thomas Aquinas. That is said, please consider the following. When work days, new moon days, and Sabbath days appear in the same passage, is it ever possible for these days to concurrently occupy the same 24-hour period of time? Or do these days fall into 3 categories? That is the question, right? New moon day is a set apart day. It's a day unto itself. It's set apart. It's not a work day, and it's not a Sabbath in the sense that we don't do any work, because you can do work around your house. You can do things. It's a worship day. It's a time of putting on some worship music and cleaning your house. That's what new moon is. It's also we're blowing shofars and we're declaring this every month. And usually there's a meal. I'd like to cook a really nice meal and invite people over at new moon time. It's kind of something I enjoy to do because it's a big day. That's what it's about. It's a worship day. And I put on music and we worship all day long while we're doing whatever we're doing. All right. So it's 3 separate days. It is of note that the 8 or so passages that mention the feast days, new moons, and Sabbaths are listing them comparatively, as they are similar in nature. They are all appointed times. However, the passages below that mention the different types of these days contrast the work days as being very different from the worship days, unequal to the new moon or Sabbaths. They are not similar in nature. Thus saith the sovereign Yahuwah, the gate of the inner court that looketh toward the east shall be shut 6 working days, but on the Sabbath it shall be open, and in the day of the new moon it shall be open. You see that there? All three in one passage. We've got 6 working days, right? The Sabbath, which is another day. So you've got 6 working days, the Sabbath, and a new moon. That is Ezekiel 46:1. It says here, you can see also verse 3. What happens if the new moon falls on Tuesdays on man's calendar? Is the gate open or shut? There is no right answer. The solution is that the new moon never falls on a work day because it's not a work day. Did you guys get that? What happens if the new moon falls on Tuesdays on man's calendar? Is the gate open or shut? There's no right answer. The solution is the new moon never falls on a work day. It's not a work day. It is a third category of day. It is a day of conjunction where we're pausing. I like to say that we're pausing, we're having an appointed time, we're waiting on the Father. That day can last 1 or 2 days, by the way. And that's why you have to go and see, because you don't know if it's going to be 1 or 2. That makes sense? It's commonly known as a day that no man knows. New moon day. That's a day that no man knows. It takes 2 witnesses to go and cite this day. Biblically, it's 2 witnesses who do this. Me and Darla, for our family, do it every month. And we share it. And it's every month. At the head of the month. The birth of the month. Life and death cycle, right? On Yahuwah's calendar, every month will be 29.5 days. You get that? Every month on Yahuwah's calendar will have 29.5 days. You know why that is? Because that 0.5 days is Rosh Chodesh. It can go 1 month. It could fall one way or the next way because we don't know the day. It's a day that no man knows. And so we go to cite it so we know that we start our count. We start our weekly count because now we've identified the head of the month. I've got something in my eye. And now we're counting 6 days. All right? Which at this point can be kind of tricky for some people because, well, let me just show you this here. Let me finish reading this and then I'll show you here. Sorry. Getting ahead of myself. In the context of passage, excuse me, we'll come back up here. It is a third category of day. The gate is closed on all 6 days of work. This passage in Ezekiel is the only scripture that mentions all 3 types of days in the same passage. But the following passages very clearly imply that the work days are separate from the new moon days and Sabbaths. In context of the passage, it was during a work day that the Shulamite woman's husband, asked, "Wherefore wilt thou go to him today? It is neither a new moon nor a Sabbath." 2 days. And that's in 2 Kings 4:23. Future work days will also be observed as a separate from the worship days. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, all flesh shall come to worship before me, say Yahuwah. Isaiah 66:23. Worship days are not work days, like servile work. I mean, you could do work around your house, mopping floors and listening to James Block. That's a worship day. Okay, it's not a Sabbath, so you're not in trouble for mopping the floor and worshiping Him. It's a worship day. You can do what you want to. It's your house. You're whatever you're at, wherever you are. Right? We're not supposed to be spending money. We're not to buy and sell on that day. It's not a commerce day. Okay, it's a worship day. All right. When will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn? Right? You cannot sell on new moon. It's a non-commerce day. No buying or selling until after it is over. Okay, and then you can go to the store, get whatever you needed. When will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn? And the Sabbath, that we may set forth wheat, making ephah small and the shekel great, and falsifying balances by deceit. And that's in Amos. So again, it's two different. You can't buy and sell on new moon day, and you can't buy and sell on the Sabbath. It's two different times you cannot buy. There's more you can't buy on the high Sabbath, like one of the feasts and things like that. But in this context, Amos is pointing out two different days that you cannot buy or sell: new moon and the Sabbath. These wicked merchants were seeking to set out their goods on the appropriate days, the 6 working days. The new moon is not a weekly Sabbath. A new moon is a non-commerce day. A commerce day is not a worship day. The Sabbath and new moons are worship days. Do the math, and you'll discover these are 3 separate categories of days in Yahuwah's calendar: the new moon days, the work days, and Sabbaths. Since Scripture indicates that these days cannot take place at the same time, do not overlap or share the same space, then we need not to rework our understanding of the calendar. Clearly, the Gregorian calendar has not been ordained by Yahuwah. All right. Most believers believe that the first day of creation was when the light was created. But unless I've misread something, heaven and earth were created before light. There is a universal truth. Without time, there is no motion. Without motion, there is no time. Thus, the creation of heaven and earth mentioned in Genesis 1 through 2, was the time-consuming event. Something moved. Something appeared out of nothing. Since it is a time-consuming event, where should it have been placed on the calendar? If we're going from darkness, there was darkness on the face of the earth. There was darkness on the face of the deep. There was darkness. Where should we place day 1 on the calendar? There was no light. There's no light. Then there's light. It's at new moon time. Okay? So here's the thing. Every month, your Shabbats will be day 8, day 15, day 22, day 29 of the month. Because somebody's saying, well, the 8th day, that's not the 7th day. Pause right there. Slow your roll. Calm down. Right? That day 1 of this month, guess where it is? It's in the new moon category. So day 1 of the first week on the calendar for the working days is going to be day 2. Because day 1 we were at new moon, which is today. So tomorrow will be day 2 on the calendar, but day 1 of 6 working days. We're working.
Tomorrow's day 3.
Excuse me. Tomorrow's day 3.
Second work day.
It's the second work day. Again, I didn't eat this morning. I took a handful of my vitamins. These guys. I'm not 50 yet, but I'm getting ready for it. All right, so that day one is going to be in the set apart day, because we're looking for the new moon. Once we got it, we know when day one is and when the first day of the month is. Now we're starting our week. So it's not Monday, right? It's week one of the month. And so because we didn't work on a new moon, but it's still the second day of the month, your first initial count is going to be technically day 2 of the month. That's why when you get down to the 7th day, it's 8. Does that make sense? I really hope I'm trying not to confuse anyone. But because one, when you'll see the Hebrew calendar, it's always up at the top. It'll be day 1 up there at new moon. And then the first day of the week is going to be day 2 of the month, right? 3, 4, 5, because see, on this week, this particular week, we're not counting new moon as a work day. You guys understand that, right? But it still doesn't change when we are in the month. So it's day 2 of the month, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, and then it's Shabbat. Okay, but day 7 is what? How many? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh my gosh, it's 6 work days. You see how that works? Get off the Gregorian. The 7th day is not Sunday. The 7th day is not Saturday. It can be, depending on what month it is and when the moon was sighted. But on Yahuwah's calendar, it's every month going to be 8, 15, 22, 29. And by the way, anytime you hear of the Sabbath being cited in the Bible, guess what days it always is in Scripture? One of those days. It's either the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, or the 29th of the month. Every time Sabbath is mentioned in giving a day of the month, it's going to be one of those days. Take note. Every month, the Sabbath is going to be 8, 15, 22, 29, unless there's a 2-day new moon or something like that. Okay. So that, I mean, I had someone, get so mad at me because we were living this, first of all, but also teaching people this, and Jonathan's in error. He's teaching people that the Sabbath is on the 8th day of the month. Yeah, that's right. But it's the what? It's the 7th day of the count. You work 6 days, and now you're resting. It just so happens it's the 8th of the month. And next week, it'll be the 15th. And the week after, the 22nd. You still worked 6 days and rested on the 7th day. Do you understand what I'm telling you? So when you start trying to lay over the Gregorian, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like a set work week, right? It's going to mess you up because you won't be able to keep up with it. Okay, so don't think about Monday, Tuesday. It's day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6 of the week or the month. There's 2 different counts going here, right? We got a monthly count and the weekly count, 6 work days, and then we rest. 6 work days, then we rest. 6 work days, then we rest. That's Yahuwah's calendar, folks. Every month, 29.5, it's perfect. And every Moedim falls in its place according to the moon. The moon tells you when it's going to be, and it's never wrong. If you're on Hillel's calendar and you're looking for Yom Teruah, some years you won't, that thing will be off like 3 days. You know why? Because it's set in stone. They did not consider the moon for the past 2,000 years in that calendar. That's why it's 200-something years off, because of that. And they admit it. They admit this. Hillel's calendar sets it in stone. Hillel existed before Yeshua, 100 years before Yeshua.
Jonathan,
Yes.
in the code searchers in our chat,
Uh-huh.
I suggested to the students that are newer to this to try to keep the two calendars separate, because if they try to do the Gregorian
You're going
and
to get
then
confused.
put the, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you just do it separate, and most people, in the beginning, yes, you have to work on those Sabbath days,
Yeah.
but Yahuwah is understands our need,
Right. He
and
knows that we're trying to figure this out.
yeah, and that you may have to work for the first while, but
It's okay.
he's
It's okay.
faithful. He will usually remove
Don't stress
that
it.
burden.
I know that people stress out about that, and that they'll just say it can't be the right calendar. We can't keep that. Don't think of it that way. First of all, our Father is long suffering and merciful. He is not going to, punish you because you're trying to, keep the right Shabbat, right? Even if you have to do it, on or not be able to keep it and keep your job, those kinds of things. But you're trying. Guess what he'll do? He'll open up a way that where you can work a job or work for yourself and keep the Shabbat. But in the meantime, it's just knowing that that's there and what the cycle is. So that's a really good point, Leah. Thank you for bringing that up. And she's right, you guys. If you try to keep it superimposed over one another, you're going to drive yourself crazy. And that's kind of the reason why we're going to go through the year together, week to week, Shabbat, week to week, Shabbat, Moedim to Moedim. We're going to do it together, right? And so you can live and do your Gregorian calendar because you still got a job and all that kind of thing. And I'm going to help you on the Hebrew side, because when we meet together every week, we're going to go through it together and we're going to know what day it is, right? And you'll see it after. I call it walking it out. And anybody that comes and stays here with me, that's what, they're coming from whatever they're doing, and they're actually going to walk it out with us. Every night we're looking up. We're sighting the moon, right? And the moon will determine the Moedim. Now, okay, well, can you prove that? Well, I got a Bible code, and it's pretty, it's not too shabby. I mean, it's all in Isaiah, first of all, and it is a very, very small skip. So let me share this with you. This fact alone, this one anomaly, for me, settles it. If I find it encoded saying the moon determines the Moedim, guess what? I'm done. It's the moon determines the Moedim. That whole cycle, that 29.5 days, is a life cycle of the light and darkness, right? It goes from nothing, it's complete darkness, to a light, to a full life, like your life is in full, and then the decline to where we fade away. It's a life cycle, is what it is. So this is the table in Isaiah, and it falls around, as you can see. Well, I'm trying to manage this. It falls, well, I mean, this is Isaiah 53 here, where it says, Yeshua is my great name. That's right here at a skip of 20. So all of this is before. So it looks like we're starting around, let's go look at what that is, where Sharit is. One of your vocabulary words, 44. It's in chapter 44 is where that starts. And it's a 224, very small. So I was able to find a lot of information on top of that just kind of sealed it for me. There's no question. This is his purpose. That's what's going on here. And so this is why you won't find me arguing. I got people that are, Jonathan, you're wrong, and I love you, brother, and they send me all of these links and stuff. You guys there?
Yes.
Why is it making me? We still on YouTube? That was really weird. It's almost like somebody was trying to hack me. Okay, so it's showing me on there. That was nutty. Anyway, so where was I? Thank you, Alba. Well, I mean, I do have some Jewish heritage, but I'm not Jewish. Is someone asking about that?
Yeah. From a beginner's perspective, what you're saying sounds like
it does. It does. Well, we are Hebrew. Abraham was a Hebrew. He was not Jewish. Jew is one tribe. One. We are the rest of them.
If I could pull up a calendar for you to show people, where would you like it? Discord?
Yeah, you can send it to me in Discord.
Because you're explaining it and people can see it. Plus you're saying, where can I buy a calendar? So this is the only calendar that you can.
Right.
After this, you just gotta learn to walk without.
How's the audio? Is the audio okay now? I'm trying to get everything back. That was really weird. Like, it was like my computer shut down and then restarted. It was weird. All right, you guys got any questions?
Yeah.
We do. Let's answer some questions.
Veronica asked, when was the new moon spotted, and are days counted evening to evening or morning to morning?
You want to help me answer some of these? Okay, I'll turn the camera off if you want, and you can come in and help me answer.
I can just stand there beside you.
Okay.
So we spotted the first visible crescent last night, and yesterday was new moon, and it ended when we saw the first visible crescent. If we had not seen it last night, we would still be keeping new moon today. Of course, today in Hawaii, it's still daytime, maybe getting dark on the mainland. And if we didn't see it last night, we would definitely see it tonight. And last night would have been day 30, today day 1. But because we saw the first visible crescent last night, that made yesterday day 1.
So do you got one of those calendars? Is that what you
I
shared with
sent
me?
it to you on Discord. This is the only calendar that you need. You can download it. You can search it on, I just searched it on Google and pulled it right up. And this is put out by World's Last Chance.
It's taking me a while to get to it.
So private net, there you go. This is the same, when Jonathan gets it pulled up, it's the same calendar every month.
Same calendar every month. It's going to be the same thing, guys. 8, 15, 22, 29. Every month.
So what day are we on today, Jonathan?
Okay, so we're day 3.
That's tomorrow.
We're at day 1.
Day 2 of the month, but it's day 1 of the week.
Okay, right.
That's the confusion.
That's right, and I'm stumbling across that. I'm trying not to confuse anyone. So when we see we've come through the new moon, we know when the first day is of the month. Okay, this is why this day is up here in this box. It's a set apart day. All right, now we're ready to start day 1 of the week and work 6 days, but it's going to be the second day of the month. Okay, which makes our Shabbat on the 7th day the 8th day of the month. Do we understand? So it is 6 working days, right? So this is not what it looks like, right? Like we're working, 7 days and 8th day is the Sabbath. That's not what's happening here, folks. Look at it. It's day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, 5, 6, and then we have a Sabbath. It's because the new moon day is going to be the first day. It's the head of the month. So first day of the month, 14th day of the month is going to be what?
For next month, you mean?
Right. For next month. For next month, we're going into, all right, so this is the 12th month. We're going into the new one. So we're going to find the new year, the first day of the month. And then it says on the 14th day of the month. So we're going to be counting. Right? The first day the first one, Shabbat we come to is going to be on day 8. But the next come around, 14th day, right? What are we? It's Passover. And then you see what happens next day. So we got a Shabbat here, which is
that's a Passover.
A Passover Moedim. It's an appointed time. We got a Shabbat the next day. Right?
And so when's the next Shabbat after that?
Right here. Well, for the month, it's going to be 22nd.
Yes, that's the day of rest.
And 29 will be the next.
So the first day of rest of that feast, this is one of the questions, is going to be the 15th, because that's always a day of rest. On every 15th, every month is a day of rest. But this is also a high Shabbat.
Yeah.
And then the 7th day of that same feast, the verse speaks of the 7th day. We're talking now about the 22nd, because it's the 7th day of the week.
Yeah.
It's not the 7th day of the feast. That's day 21, but it is the 7th day of the week.
Right. Now let's look at this. So at Passover time, we're looking for a full moon. That's what's going to be in the sky. That's what was happening when Yeshua was on the cross. Right? So let's think about this. At this Sabbath, on the 8th day, what should be in the sky, guys? What should the moon look like on day 8? Anybody know? Where's Marissa at? Is she in the chat? Tell us where it is, Marissa. It's going to be a half moon right here. Every month, that is going to be a half moon in the sky around this time. So what's going to be in the sky at this time around Passover? This is next month, right? At this time. And by the way, this is regardless of Passover, every month this is going to be true. Your full moon is going to be around this time right here. So this is going to be up here, a sliver, right? So we got a little toenail in the sky, and then we got a half moon. Then we got a full moon every month. All right. somebody's making a comment in the chat over there. I'm so confused. I'm trying to break it down as rudimentary as I can for you. All right.
They have to separate from the Gregorian.
You're going to have to separate yourself from the Gregorian calendar and stop thinking about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in that sense, because this is the biblical calendar. This is how it went. Hillel's calendar is not the correct calendar, guys. Hillel was a Talmud rabbi and existed before Yeshua. So what does that tell you? That by the time Yeshua is on the scene, guess what they're doing? It was all out of whack. Everything, literally everything of the way was out of whack, just like it is with Christianity, by the way. Yeshua come and restored us back to the way, and guess what Constantine did 300 years later? Did the same thing the Jews did. Kind of like, oh, let's change some stuff here. They did exactly the same thing. This is the enemy working through man. So they set the calendar in stone with Hillel. And now it's Friday, Saturday kind of thing. Doesn't even consider the moon until it's the 7th month. And that's when we'll look at the moon. That's not biblical. It's not biblical. I also was able to find a code, the calendar of the Hebrews. So first one was the moon determines the Moedim. The next one that I found was the calendar of the Hebrews, which is, this is it here. Oh my gosh, because my computer shut down. Guess what? They went bye-bye. Crazy. All right, let me just pull it back up here. You guys didn't get to see that one because my computer shut off. Calendar of the Hebrews. It's also at a very small skip, by the way. It's a 2211 is the skip. So it is also in a very small area. In the prophets. So let's see, we're in Ezekiel here, up in this area. Ezekiel, Hosea around here. So in Joel is around here. Amos, Micah, really interesting where that is. So 2211, calendar of the Hebrews. Trying to move it over a little bit. Is the vertical term. Chodesh or Rosh Chodesh, it crosses over right there. That Shin is sharing the Shin in the Shema, excuse me. Brain something going on there. Shamash. The moon, the Irod, that's the word for moon. We've got the sign here, which is the Ha'ot for Ephraim. Sign is also vertical here on the house of Israel. And then we've got the heavens. Excuse me, I don't know why I was thinking the sun. It's the heavens. So let's see here. What are some of the scriptures? We also got it in plain text. Yeah. In Chodesh, which means in the head of the month. There. Where are we at here? Ezekiel 22, 32. Let's start with verse 7. Let's see. I don't even remember why I highlighted this. What's here? Because of the moon. And when I shall put thee out, I will cover the heaven and make the stars dark. And I will cover the sun with a cloud, and the moon shall not give her light. And all the bright lights of heaven will I make dark over thee, and set darkness upon thy land, saith Yahuwah. Now that's pretty, if this is the thing, he's taking, when he does that, he's hiding the calendar from you, because now you don't know any of this, right? So I found that interesting that this was here in Ezekiel 32, right? Where he was, of course, this is probably something bad that's happening with destruction, but he's essentially hiding the calendar, sun, moon, and stars. And darkness shall be upon the land. I will also vex the hearts of many people, and I shall bring thy destruction among the nations into the countries which thou hast not known. Yea, I will make many people amazed at thee, and their kings shall be horribly afraid of thee, when I shall brandish my sword.
I'm going to go help Michael because he's out there working by himself.
What happened?
Just the boys are off doing their thing. I'm going to go out there so I can help and keep them involved.
Why are they not helping? Because I'm on live stream and nobody's watching?
I'm not watching them. So Michael gets frustrated.
I hear you. All right. You guys got any questions? That would go for you guys too, students. If you guys got any questions.
No, I don't know. He said he would be on there.
So I lost my moderator with Darla, and have to see what's going on with the questions here. No one's got a question? Wow. Okay, so again, this is the 12th month, and we just come through Rosh Chodesh. We know when the days are now. We know when the Shabbat's going to be, and we're going to count them together, and then go into the new year together, kind of with that kind of understanding of how these days are falling and what we're looking for when we come to the new year. At that particular point, it's not about just knowing when the first day of the month is. Now we also need to know this because it's the first day of the year. This is the new year. The Jews do Rosh Hashanah. That is the 7th month. Again, a change they made. Hillel, all of that. It was all to make life more convenient for them. Okay, so there was a lot of changes done. So they decided, well, let's do the new year in the 7th month, right? So that's when they do it. That's not the actual new year. It's not. So it's a man-made change. I don't even see the chat. Okay, that's where you guys are. And no questions from the students either. Okay, I'm just going to take it that I'm not confusing you. Yes, Rosh Chodesh is not a work day in the sense that you go to work, right? You can do stuff around your house. It's a worship day is what it is. I call it a hold day. We're holding and waiting till we see the moon, and so we know when our count is. We know when day 1 is, and when day 2 is the first day of the 6 days of working will be day 2. Okay. So we're kind of in a hold pattern, looking for that, like we were yesterday. We saw the moon. Now we know when everything is, right? Same thing for next month. When we come out of the end of the month, going into the beginning of the next month, this time we're identifying the new year, but also going to be starting our count to get to Passover, right? And then we're going to go from harvest to harvest. So it'll be starting from these feasts, going all through the year. There's a count going on, and then we get to the next ones, and we're going to all do it together. So that concludes my introduction to the calendar. I really hope that I didn't confuse you guys. That was not my goal. I was really trying to make this, digestible and people could understand it and go, slow enough and enunciate enough to get it across. I do have other codes on it, 3 or 4 that, seem to be telling me the same thing. This is the correct calendar. And again, I didn't have a dog in the fight when I first came into this. I was doing the Friday to Saturday thing, right? So obviously something changed. There was something that happened that convinced me that this was the right way. So that's why I made a change. So that, so what can you say? I've had people mad at me for that. Jonathan, you're teaching them falsehood. Nobody can keep that calendar. Well, I have been for the last 5 or 6 years. And everything has been falling in its place. The feasts fall in its perfect place. Everything is there. And there's been no confusion. When you walk it out and stop looking at Gregorian, you're not, trying to keep up with both of them, it's much easier. And that's how I was able to do it, because at first I was trying to keep up with both. And even still, I have to reference back. I have to know Monday and Tuesday and when things are, because I've got to operate in this world like everybody else. So I get it. It's a fine balance, really. Thank you, Ron. I see that. Okay, so if every month is a 29.5 days, how is there a day 30? Good question. You know how that is? It's because we don't know the day or time. It can be a 1-day new moon or a 2-day new moon. And when this happens, you'll know whether the previous month is going to be a 29-day month or a 30-day month. But it will always be tagged on to the end of the month. Does that make sense? So if it's a 2-day new moon, and we've already come through 29 days and we're waiting for that moon, guess what? It's a 30-day month. That does happen. But balances out throughout the whole year, it's 29.5 days. Right? That's what it comes out to. So that's how that happens. You can, and it will happen once or twice of the year. Will probably 3 or 4 times where that'll happen, where it'll come on the second day. And so you'll have to take that first day you were waiting and put it with that previous month and start your count. Okay. So you really got to be mindful of this. And people were in ancient times. They didn't have an iPhone. When's the new moon? Right? Guess what they did? They walked outside and looked. And on the 8th, 15th, 22, 29, guess what they would see in the sky every month? Same time of the month, 8, 15, 22, 29. They would see that little crescent. They would see a half moon, full moon, and then another little crescent. That would be the 4 symbols or signals in the skies that they would know. And then every other day was a day of the week or day of the month. It lays out the whole month. I've said this often before. If you'd gone into a coma for a few months in ancient times and suddenly woke up and it was 10 o'clock at night or whatever, and you didn't know when it was, you could literally walk outside, and if you knew your moon cycles, you would know what day of the month is. You may not know which month because you don't know how long you've been out, but you know what day it is. You know exactly what day it is just by looking at the moon. Did you know that? That's a fact. And it's the same with every month. For those Shabbats, the indicator in the sky is going to tell you. When you see that half moon, you know tomorrow's a Shabbat. When you see the full moon, you know you're at Shabbat. When you see the crescents, you know you're at Shabbat times or new moon time, depending on which one it is, waning or waxing. And it's that simple. It's really not complicated. And I know, I can make it complicated just by not having the correct words to put out and express it, but it's not complicated. So walking it out together this next year, my prayer is that many more people will see it and embrace it. That's the goal. I think it's a rhythm that we've been out of whack with this rhythm of, and all of nature is in it, by the way. All of the oceans, animals, all of the animals of the world are in this rhythm with creation, and we've been out of rhythm. It's sort of like a piston in a car that's misfiring. It's out of whack, and it's not running right, and it's kind of like all over the place, bouncing around. Right, we're out of sync, and so he's getting us synced back with him, meeting with him at his Moedim, meeting with him at his Shabbats, and getting back into that rhythm. And what I've discovered, and when this has happened in my own life, things are more pleasant. They're not so chaotic, if that makes any sense. I was living in chaos at some point where I was just, every time I turned around, I was having to deal with some kind of crisis, and this thing was going wrong and that thing and being hacked and this and that. And now it hasn't been that way. I have long periods of time where there's no crisis, nothing I have to deal with, and or someone hacking me or something like that. Right? I don't know if anyone's noticed, but that's been the case. Shalom, Terrence. $356 days. Yeah, isn't that something? And how do we go from a 360-day calendar worldwide, and all of a sudden, sometime or another, it's 5 days more? Because something happened. Universally, all calendars went from 360 to 365. It's because something happened. It was a perturbation to our planet, and it was caused by Planet X. And it's happened multiple times. Purim is coming up too, yes. Purim is an unofficial feast. It is a memorial and really a celebration of what Yahuwah did for the people, sparing them from Haman, right? So that is like I said, it's not something in the Torah, but it would have been something that Yeshua would have been very familiar with, by the way. He was also very familiar with Hanukkah. And it wasn't something that he like, oh, that's man-made. No, he understood that this was a celebration as what would you commemorate what Yahuwah did for them. So that's kind of why it kind of got integrated, and the Jews keep it, even though it's not in the Torah. It's because of they want to honor the Father for what he did. I don't know if I can you verify this? Calorie days. I don't know anything about that, unless I'm looking at this wrong. Can you verify this? Calorie days. Is that an autocorrect issue, or is that a real word? I don't think I've ever seen that. Yes, they are. Very pleasant. Okay. Frank says, if Planet X comes, then what do we do? It's not, if it's coming, it's coming. There's no question. It is coming. It's already, the effects of it, it's happening. Global warming, or what do they call it? The grand solar minimum, which is going to be like an ice age kind of things. These cycles are being influenced by a very large object, or objects, because this is probably more than one object. So the Bible talks about it. It implies and alludes to Isaiah 24. Doesn't say specifically of something doesn't declare, oh, this is when planet X is going to happen. But if you read between the lines and look at what's happening there in this prophecy, which has never taken place ever in world history, that day is coming in the future, because all of the word will be fulfilled. You guys know that, right? Everything the prophets spoke will come to pass. Isaiah 24 has to happen. It's a cataclysmic event. If you take in the other places in the scripture where you see a cataclysmic event, it talks about 3/4 of the earth being burned. This is the very same event or sequence of events. It's the same time. You take all of those scriptures from different places and you put them together, you start to see what's happening. Isaiah is describing what's taking place in the events of Revelation 8. And we've concluded from the code research that Nibiru, Planet X, Planet 7X, Wormwood is synonymous. It's all the same thing. And now we've got the Jews who, so I used to say it's only the secular people going to call it Nibiru. That's not so now. As we've seen in the last couple of broadcasts, all of Hasidic Jews, these religious Jews, are looking for a star. They literally are going to call it Nibiru because it's encoded in the Torah. Now they have a name for it. Previously, they didn't have it. They got all these prophecies, but they didn't have a name for it. Now that that's been discovered, guess what they're calling this star that's coming? Nibiru. So it has nothing to do with Stitchins, has nothing to do with Anunnaki and things like that. In other words, the Bible is not confirming that Stitchins was right just because Nibiru is there. It's because, the secular world and the Jewish world, and now even CodeSearcher and people watching me, are going to understand that this is an object identified in ancient scripts and even in the Ge'ez, in the Ethiopic. Nibiru is Planet X. It's Wormwood. It also has a connection to the throne room of El, which is fascinating to me, because when the New Jerusalem coming is a physical object, and it may appear to us like a planet or something like that. I don't know. Just looking at what happens with John, where he sees the angel, and then he sees what happens in the physical, and then he sees what's happening in heaven again, and it kind of flashes back and forth. He's seeing in the spirit realm, and then he's seeing in the physical realm. It could appear like a planet. The dimensions given in scripture is a cube, but I got to be, quite honest with you. If I see a cube in the sky, my first thought is going to be the board, because it's just kind of foreign to me. It's like, what? Right? But that is the dimensions given in the scriptures. Again, I tend to think that we're going to see what's happening in the physical, but not what's happening in the spiritual until after Revelation 10, when the mystery's over and everyone is seeing everything as it is. We're going to see things with a veil, the spiritual veil, right? We're only going to see the physical. Flaming star, right? This flaming mountain that comes down. But in the spiritual, it's a censer that has coals from the fire from heaven in it, right? But in the physical, we're seeing a flaming mountain. Does that make sense? That's kind of the idea. Here comes the rain again. You got questions? Absolutely, we're going to see an uptick in earthquakes. That's a very good point, Michael. We definitely are. We saw, they're saying 9 something in Fukushima today, or Japan. Has it been verified? Fukushima just said that, and I wasn't sure when I first came on if it was. I was just told that. I never confirmed that. So, if someone can please do that. Here comes the rain. I got to shut this this hatch here. Rain moving in. I live on the wet side of the island, guys. We get 280 inches of rain a year. Merkabah is chariot. That's what Merkabah means. Merkabah. Someone's asking about Merkabah. That means chariot in Hebrew. How do you find when Passover is, and how is it verified? Okay, so let's review that again. We're in the 12th month. We know that Passover is in the first month, the 14th day of the month. So we got to be on our toes for the next sighting of the new moon, and that's kind of the point why we're doing this now in the 12th month to get you ready. So when we go to that point, and we'll start talking about it a couple of weeks ahead of time, week ahead of time, a couple of days before, and then day of, when we're all around our world and wherever we are together, sighting the moon. And even if you can't, even if there's clouds where you are, there's going to be somebody that's going to see it. So you're not going to miss out. We're still going to walk it out together. So we sight the moon. We know when day 1 is. We know when day 2 is. Right? We got 6 working days. We Shabbat. We know the next Shabbat that comes around is going to be Passover time. And there's going to be a full moon in the sky. And so we're going to build up to that full moon. With no moon, sliver, half moon at the next Shabbat, and then the next Shabbat, Passover, full moon. Okay, that's how we know when it is. The moon's going to tell us. Okay? The moon determines the Moedim, encoded in Isaiah 2:24. Just that anomaly alone is enough for me to accept the fact that the moon determines the Moedim. I know that's shocking for people. Jonathan, how can you possibly believe what the Bible says? Well, I just do. Many of you probably didn't catch that, right? Well, it's still what the Bible says. It's another witness. And the rarity of this anomaly. It just wasn't an accident. I mean, we're talking about, one in millions, billions. That fact alone, that one anomaly is enough for me to know it's true. That's how the codes can confirm a matter. And that's how they can point you in the right direction. That's how it can be, where's my compass? A compass to lead us. That's why you hear me use that reference. Because this compass don't care about my opinion. It has no, as much as I want to influence this compass, it does not care about my opinion. Okay? Same thing with the Bible codes. It does not care what your opinion is or what your dogma is. It will reconcile the word, and if it doesn't fit what you think, then you have an issue here. You can either, let go of that falsehood that you were believing, or you can go with what was revealed to you. That's kind of how it works. It has nothing to do with my opinion. This is how you've seen this guy go from pre-trib rapture to where I am now. I had to let it go. Well, Jonathan, you're not strong in your faith. You don't have faith. My faith has never been stronger. Never been. What's he saying? Please show us that code again. It was only up for us a second. Which one? You talking about the calendar of the Hebrews? The last one I just did? All right, let me do that. Someone's wanting to rework this code, I bet. So that's what it looks like. This is the the calendar of the Hebrews. All right, it's at a skip of 22:11. It is in the prophets. It's at the bottom half of Ezekiel, and goes into Hosea, Amos, Micah. So it's, look at the numbers here. This is all minor prophets going down here. What is this down here? That is Psalms. We're in Psalms, but Malachi here, right? Zechariah. You know what happens in Zechariah around the 13th, 14th chapter? That's the second coming. The mountain splits in half. So interesting place where all this is. Now the other one is, let me go get it. The moon determines the Moedim. It is at a skip of 224. This last one you just saw was at a skip of 2211. Still very small. The moon determines the Moedim, 224. It is found exclusively in Isaiah. Let me get it here for you. Hold on. So no matter what text, what code program you've got, if you just go to the book of Isaiah, you can find this code. Here it is. Restore. You know, that's a really interesting restore. This word right here is all, it's in here several times. So we've got it crossing the term. It's also here connected to the name of Yahuwah. Imagine that, restore the name of Yahuwah. Is somebody get that phone? Is Darla in here? Hang tight. I don't know where Darla is. Sorry, you guys, had a call coming in. I have to monitor that. We're expecting some important phone call. Let me see what kind of questions we got. Michelle says she struggles because the Bible says to judge not in new moons or the Shabbat days or meats and all of that kind of stuff. Michelle, what you're doing is you're misquoting scripture. What it's saying is you shouldn't judge people because of new moons and the Sabbath and because of what they eat. It's what it's telling you. Okay. So I would be concerned about what you know, interpretation, what version of the Bible you is. It a New King James? You're misunderstanding what is being said there. It's saying don't judge someone because of the new moon or because they're keeping the feast or because their dietary law. That's what it's saying. Sometimes we can overthink things and completely miss what is being said. Same thing with you know, with Peter being shown these things on a sheet, and people take that as Yahuwah is saying, "Oh, you can eat these now," and that's not true. Yahuwah is saying, "Don't judge these Gentiles because they eat these things. Don't call this unclean. They would not even come in their house and fellowship with them if they ate these things." I'm trying to, what was the question there? See, I really need Darla here to help me with, because I can't keep my eye on everything. Yeah, I know they teach you that not to get under the law, but you're under the grace. And that's a deception, Michelle. Yes, there is grace. There is grace. And when we didn't know about the law, we were under it. But once we know the truth, guess what? We're held accountable. You don't have grace when you knowingly know something and you continue to disobey. You don't have grace then. Now you got iniquity. Okay? Grace is you know, mercy in that sense is because you don't know. That's what that is. Do you go and spank your child for doing something they didn't know anything about? Right? No, you at least tell them. You don't do that, honey. Don't do that. You don't just go and beat them, punish them. No. So that's not what's happening there. You're not held accountable for what? Really? Okay. All right. Grace is not the same as mercy. You know, it's an interesting word study there, Cleve. I would go take a look at that. Favor, mercy and favor is more accurate because you are favored. That has become something that is a slippery slope for Christians, is this hyper grace stuff. That Jesus nailed it to the cross and you don't have to do anything, and you know, which leads to once saved, always saved, that he's already forgive you for sins that's in the future that you're going to commit, and so it's okay, you're still saved, right? That's not how it works. I know people believe that. I've got one of my uncles is a preacher that preaches that, and it's because he's got a son that's a homosexual. And so he wants to believe that because he was saved at 12, he's always saved and his sin is always covered. It doesn't matter if he's still in it. Once saved, always saved. He's got to repent, right? He's okay. That's not how that works. And that is not how grace works. Hence the term greasy grace you hear people talk about, because that's what they make it into. All right. We got to be careful with some of the teachings that you've got in the churches today. It's far from what Yahuwah had intended. You know, depending on whatever your thing is, you can find a God to appease whatever you believe. You want to believe that abortion's okay? Guess what? There was just a new senator from Georgia elected, Warnock, who's just the man for you. If you want a pastor that says you can have an abortion, you can go and get pregnant and fornicate and get an abortion, and it's okay. That's Warnock for you. So literally in all of the 63,000 Protestant denominations, you can pick and choose which one you want to go to. You want to find one that's, you know, acceptable to the homosexual, you know, lifestyle and things like that. Guess what? You can find a church that is all rainbows, you know, has a gay or lesbian pastor with a rainbow around their neck, because that's kind of their symbol now. They hijacked that from the Father, and it's okay. Jesus loves you. He died for you. And it's okay. And matter of fact, because they have their own Bible, they imply that he was gay. This is why he loved John the most. Yada, yada, yada. Twisting the truth and twisting things to fit their agenda, to fit their lifestyle is how that comes about, guys, is how you get the Adam and Steve Bible. Is that what they call it? Something like that. But it's the Rainbow Bible. We're supposed to believe this is the same God. And folks, it's a deity, right? But this is not the Father. It is not our Father. It says on the back of the dollar bill, "In God we trust." Gimel Dalet. That is not our Father. But it is the God that most of those people worship. And I'm talking about Christians. They worship money. Pastors, these same pastors, megachurch pastors, guess what they chase? Guess what they worship? They all chase money. They all got books to sell you. They all got DVDs to sell you because they're chasing that money. Got to have another jet, right? That's not our Elohim. That's not our Father. And so when it says, "Come out of her, my people," and I wasn't even planning on talking about this tonight, that is the church. Doesn't matter what denomination. All of them, every single one of them are wrong. They have a little bit of truth and a lot of wrong. And this is why we have to come out of it. It's a deception. Okay. Again, I didn't mean to go into that. I'm just kind of rolling with the rolling with the punches there in the chat. I didn't catch what was going on there, Ron, but I trust you. You can get kind of crap. People get mad at things I say, and you know, a lot of people don't know how to take Jonathan, this code searcher. I mean, there's those that used to have me on their show and have me come and talk and stuff that won't come around me with a 10-foot pole now because of the name, mostly that's why. But all this other stuff is just like, oh yeah, he's apostate. He has lost his way. I highlight, somebody come by one of my videos the other day. I've known for years, not known personally. They just know me from the internet. Probably never seen a video since that time, and was making comments like, I tried to warn you 10 years ago, and you've fallen away, and all. Obviously haven't been seeing anything going on in my life and where you has brought me, but was condemning me for the deception I'm teaching you guys. This is his words. And he couldn't be he was so far off base and out in left field. It was crazy. I mean, I liked I think he even put a heart there because I thought it was hilarious. Just so delusional. These are one who believes in pre-trib rapture and all the deceptions that were taught to the church. This guy's still caught up in, and he's feeling sorry for me for being so deceived and teaching deception. I mean, it's kind of ironic, really. I'm trying to bring you guys truth, and I don't have an agenda about it. And I'm willing to put myself out there to call a spade when Yahuwah leads me. I know people think I'm just being hateful when I get on to the false prophets and the false ones, and they'll say, Jonathan, just let that go, please. If Yahuwah leads me to say something, I have to say it. And even if it gets me in trouble with some of you, I have to. There's nothing more important than truth, especially in this hour, in this time of confusion we're in and distress, where you can't trust anything. The internet? Are you kidding me? Where'd you learn that? Learn it from the internet. It's a petri dish of deception. And so to navigate through that, it takes, you need to know how to research and to, rightly divide the internet. It says rightly divide the word, but you really got to do that with the internet too. Know what to weed through and know what is just nonsense or what's actually factual. Eloah is one of the names of the Most High. Eloah. It's a singular for Elohim. Eloah. Aloha. It's the very same words. Coincidence? I don't think so. You think it's a coincidence that you pronounce Hawaii in reverse is Yahuwah? No. I don't think that's a coincidence either. I think his name is a set apart place. The righteous run to it and are safe. That's what I think about his name. You can't go wrong with his name. Let him call you a sacred namer. Whatever. Let him accuse you of that on the day of judgment. See where it goes. Can you imagine someone accusing you of being a sacred namer, having the audacity to honor the Father's name? It's ridiculous. I would not want to be that one. Just saying. You don't want to be that guy in heaven. Trust me. Well, he was teaching your name, and I called it out. And just sacred name stuff, man. It's just not going to go well with the church. Thank you, Father, for the haters. You know what? I kind of enjoy it when they call me stuff like that because I know what the word says. Persecuted for his name's sake. Yep. So bring it on. You cannot go wrong by honoring the Father's name and honoring the Son's name. I've already gone 2 hours. My goodness. Something flying in my face. All right, you guys. I've rambled enough. I just kind of start winging it after a certain point. I don't have anything else. I see Tracy's here. Did you got to get any codes? We can do that. But I'm running out of gas here with stuff to talk about.
I haven't looked at code since last night.
All right. Okay. All right. We'll close for now and come back when we do have something. All right, you guys. May Yahuwah bless you and keep you and protect you always. And remember, go and look for the moon tonight and look for it every night. We'll talk again about the Shabbat and the Abib and identifying the new year. And again, we're going to walk it out together. Shalom, YouTube. May Yahuwah bless you. My mom's watching. I love you, Mom. Shalom, Marissa. Shalom, Cece.